From time to time, I like to do free-form discussions talking about bikes, particularly on a rainy day like today where I cannot get out and ride on the trails. So this one I'm going to call the Trail Bike Enduro Bike Dilemma. And it's one of those topics where we talk about things we go through, decisions we make when trying to decide what bike to buy. And there are a lot of really good enduro bikes coming out on the market. The new Giant Rain 29 was just released. The new Specialized Enduro was just released. Just over to my right is my Niner Rip 9, which I just finished my full review on. And that bike is also what I would consider an enduro bike, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as I get into this video. So most of us, when we go through what kind of trail bike to buy, are probably going to be deciding between a full-on enduro bike and a trail bike. So let's talk about the difference, because some people watching this video may still not understand the difference between a trail and an enduro bike. Well, an enduro bike, okay, you know what, let's back up a little bit. Enduro racing came on the scene several years ago, and it was so popular because it was a mountain bike race where people could just use their trail bike. So the bikes that they ride every day, they could use that for racing, and it became really popular really quickly for that reason. It was kind of the everyman's downhill race. You didn't have to have a downhill park, a ski lift, or a shuttle, or a full-on downhill bike to do these races. As you know, enduro races, you are only timed on the downhill sections. Well, since then, bikes are coming out that are more enduro focused. So an enduro bike is one, it's almost like a slightly scaled down downhill bike, especially the new Specialized Enduro, which has 170 millimeters of travel in the front and the rear as a 29er, and it's only 29. They're not doing a 27.5 for that bike. So enduro bikes are pretty much designed to be downhill bikes that you could pedal to the top. You have to pedal to the top to the next stage in an enduro race. Whereas a trail bike is kind of meant to just ride all over the place, uphill, downhill. They're fun going up, they're fun coming down. They're not quite as capable coming down as an enduro bike, but they can still, they're still a ton better than a cross-country bike. So it's just kind of, I think, the most commonly purchased bike for people who just want a mountain bike. So, trail versus enduro. We typically cannot purchase both. I mean, most of us have jobs and families and responsibilities, so buying, all these different kind of bikes. And, the bike industry it's just continuing to get more segmented. When I first started mountain biking, all we had were hardtail 26ers. That's it. That was a mountain bike. That's all you had. Now there's cross-country hardtails, cross-country full suspension, trail bike, long travel trail bike, enduro, downhill. And of course you got gravel and cyclocross and road, and there's so many segments now, it's good in the sense of there's a lot of choices. It can be bad because there are a lot of choices, and we have to decide which one's going to be the best for our needs. When I was riding this summer, so I got to ride in a lot of places, and when I was riding in North Georgia, I rode both the Niner Rip 9 and the Giant Trance 29, and I concluded that the Trance 29 was a better bike for those applications because it was more of a all-around trail bike. 130 mil travel in the front, 115 in the back, 29er. Felt like it had a little bit more travel in the back than it actually does. That's a whole nother topic. You can watch that video if you want to. But I felt like for those trails, that was all I needed. It was fine on the uphills, fine on the downhills. When I went up to North Carolina, where I rode Pisgah, I did Bailey Mountain Bike Park, I did not want to have the Giant Trance 29. I wanted to ride the Rip 9. The Rip 9 is much more capable on the downhills than the Trance 29. It's got, more travel, beefier tires. The nice thing about the Rip 9 is it's not full-blown enduro. It's more capable, it's super fun in the descents, but it's not, gobs of travel like the new Specialized Enduro. So that bike is one that I think is going to be a good option for those of us who don't want a full-on Enduro, because here's the downside about a full-on Enduro. It's so specific. You're only using that thing for trails where you've got rough descents. You slog your way to the top and bomb the descents, whether you're racing or just riding. When I was riding in Pisgah, I rode out in Bellingham, Washington. Everybody had Enduro bikes. And when I say Enduro, like Transition Sentinel, that was a big one. Transition Patrol, that's a 27.5. The Rip 9, those kind of bikes. Most people were on those bikes. I did not see hardly any cross-country bikes or shorter travel 29er, so 29er trail bikes. They were all Enduro. So those parts of the country, you want an Enduro bike. So the dilemma that I have, if I was trying to decide between the two, is, well, locally, an Enduro bike is way too much bike. However, bombing descents in North Carolina is probably the most fun I have on a mountain bike. So do I want to try to do that on a short travel trail bike? Probably not. And again, that's why I like the 29er, Rip 9. So, an option is wheels. So wheels make a huge difference in the way the bike rides. So you could put smaller tires, and I mentioned this in the review of the Rip 9. You could put smaller tires, 2.35s, carbon rims, and transform the personality of the bike to be more trail. And I really also like these bikes that have adjustable geometries, like the Specialized Stump Jumper, the 9er Rip 9, I think the new Specialized Enduro. These have flip chips that you can change the geometry, and that really helps. So it helps this decision be a little bit easier. So in this dilemma of trying to decide between a full-on Enduro bike and a trail bike, my best advice is to really look at the type of terrain you ride most often and what compromises are you willing to make, because that is really what it comes down to, right? Compromise. If you have a full-on Enduro bike, you're really going to compromise those rides of just smoother terrain. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a cross-country bike, that's my ideal fleet, is to have a cross-country bike, because locally that's the best bike, and a full-on, longer travel 29 I like, or longer travel 27.5. So that to me is the perfect fleet for mountain biking. Now, if you can have three, it's a trail bike, enduro, and a cross country. That's ideal. But what's the most fun for you? Like I said, bombing a descent to me is the most fun I have on a mountain bike. So I'm willing to make some compromises on the smoother terrain. Now, if you race enduro, then the choice is pretty clear. You're going to want a full-on enduro race bike, which another interesting point in this topic is most enduro race bikes today are now 29. Why? Well, because most of the time 29 is faster on a downhill than 27.5. In the trail bike category, bike companies are making both 27.5 and 29 because trail riding isn't necessarily about a clock, it's about having fun. Some people have more fun on 29, some people have more fun on 27.5. I'm kind of right in the middle. I honestly have not decided yet. I rode a Transition Sentinel, my son rode a Transition Patrol over the summer, and those are a really good example of two bikes that are kind of in the same category. They're like the Rip 9. They're that enduro / trail. They're not full-on enduro bikes, but two different wheel sizes. So again, in the trail bike category, you've got options. I think what we're seeing now is you're not having that option for enduro bikes. The new Giant Rain, the carbon one, is only 29. The new Specialized Enduro, only 29. When you go to Yeti's website and you look at the category, enduro or trail, all of the enduro bikes, I think, are 29. So we're saying that enduro race bikes. So back to my point, if you race enduro, the choice is easy. If you don't race, then you're going to have to, again, just decide which one's right for you. So that's kind of just like I said, just a free form. Let's talk about bikes. I'd love to hear your comments below. Have you gone through this dilemma? What bike did you choose? Did you test ride others? Why did you choose it? Again, I think this is a good opportunity for a lot of y'all out there to leave those comments, and let's have a discussion about this. So anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.